Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Sonya Massey? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Sonya Massey was born on February 12, 1988, in San Diego, California. At some point, she moved to Springfield, Illinois. She worked for a gaming company there for a while. According to a family member, Sonya had schizophrenia with paranoid delusions. Sonya lived in a 1,000 square foot, 3-bedroom house at 2868 Hoover Avenue. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On July 6, 2024, at 12:50 a.m., 36-year-old Sonya Massey called 911 and reported hearing noises outside her home. She refused to answer any questions and disconnected the call. 2 deputies from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office responded, arriving at about 1:08 a.m. One of these deputies was named Sean Grayson. The other deputy has not been identified. I will refer to him simply as Deputy 2. Sean did not turn on his body camera as required by department policy, but Deputy 2's camera was activated. When the deputies first arrived, they checked the area for any sign of a prowler. Deputy 2 walked around Sonya's property with a flashlight. He looked in a shed in the backyard and looked in the front yards of a few other houses before noticing a black SUV in the driveway next to Sonya's house. This vehicle had a broken driver's side window, and a small window toward the back of the rear driver's side door was broken. There was no sign of a prowler. Sean had been searching the area as well, using his flashlight. At 1:12 a.m., Deputy 2 knocked on Sonya's front door. Sean joined Deputy 2 and started knocking. Receiving no answer, the deputies contacted dispatch and asked them to call Sonya. The deputies could hear the phone ringing inside the house, but Sonya would not come to the door. Eventually, she yelled, "Hold on." At 1:16 a.m., Sonya finally answered the front door. She talked to the deputies about God and said that she didn't know who owned the black SUV next to her house. Sonya wasn't really speaking clearly or making a lot of sense. She appeared to be suffering from mental health symptoms. After a brief conversation at the front door, the deputies were getting ready to leave. Deputy 2 walked away from the front door and called in the license plate of the black SUV. While he was a few feet away doing this, something transpired between Sean and Sonya, which led Sean to enter her house. Deputy 2 followed a few seconds later. Sonya sat down on a couch, and everyone appeared to be calm. Sean asked Sonya to supply her name. She was reluctant, but she gave it to him. At this point, Sean asked for her driver's license, saying that would be easier. At 1:20 a.m., as Sonya was looking for her driver's license, Sean noticed a pot of water on the stove. He pointed toward the kitchen and said, "We don't need a fire while we're here." Sonya went into the kitchen to remove the pot from the stove. She turned off the stove, carried the pot to the sink, and turned on the faucet. The deputies were still in the living room at this point. They backed away from Sonya, prompting her to ask, "Where are you going?" Sean laughed as he responded, "Away from your hot, steaming water." Sonya dramatically changed the tone of the encounter by saying, quote, "Away from the hot, steaming water. Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," unquote. Sean replied with the word, "huh," which led Sonya to repeat, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." As Sean put his hand on his pistol, he told Sonya that she better blanking not, or he would blanking shoot her in the blanking face. Just as he finished that sentence, he drew his weapon, pointed it at Sonya, and said, "Drop the blanking pot." She responded by saying, "Okay, I'm sorry." After repeating the words, "I'm sorry," Sonya crouched next to the sink. Sean stepped forward and to the right to see around the counter, closing the distance to Sonya as he continued yelling at her. Even though Sean had not activated his body camera, it still captured what happened next because he turned it on a few seconds later. Body cameras always record video, When they are activated, they retain a few seconds of the video prior to the activation. From Sean's body camera video, it appears as though after Sonya crouched down, she grabbed the pot of water and threw it toward Sean. At about 1:20 a.m., Sean responded by firing his weapon 3 times, striking Sonya 1 time in the face and killing her. Sean yelled, "Drop the blanking pot." During the confrontation, Deputy 2 drew his weapon, but he never fired it. His body camera was on the entire time, but the camera didn't get a clear view of the shooting because of where he was standing. After the shooting, Deputy 2 told Sean that he was going to retrieve a medical kit from his vehicle. Sean responded, quote, "No, it's a headshot. She's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot," unquote. He then said, quote, "Yeah, I'm not taking blanking boiling water to the blanking head. And look, it blanking came right up to our feet, too," unquote. A few seconds later, Sean added, quote, "What else do we do? I'm not taking hot boiling water to the blanking face, and it already reached us," unquote. Despite his initial assessment that rendering aid was not necessary, Sean left the house at 1:22 a.m. to get his medical kit, as Deputy 2 tried to help Sonya. EMTs arrived and Sonya was transported to a hospital where she was pronounced dead. Sean told responding deputies, quote, "She had boiling water and came at me with boiling water. She said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came at me with boiling water," unquote. Despite Sean's claim of self-defense, the state had a different impression of his behavior. On July 17, 2024, 11 days after the shooting, Sean Grayson was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. Now moving to my analysis. The killing of Sonya Massey has attracted a tremendous amount of attention from the media. There is a great deal of outrage, and many people have condemned Sean Grayson's behavior, including President Joe Biden. Despite a large number of people reaching the conclusion that Sean must have been guilty of first-degree murder, this case is a long way from resolved, and Sean maintains the presumption of innocence. In cases where police officers unjustly kill people, first-degree murder charges are rare. Usually, an officer would be charged with something like manslaughter. In an egregious case, second-degree murder. This brings me to the question, was Sean guilty of first-degree murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Sean weighed 228 pounds. He was wearing body armor, had a firearm, a radio, and police training. Furthermore, he was accompanied by another armed deputy. Sonya weighed 110 pounds, was alone, and was mentally ill. When Sonya told Sean that she rebuked him in the name of Jesus, it was reasonable to believe that her behavior was due to mental health difficulties. Either way, her statement was not a threat. Sean had a dramatic and aggressive reaction to this religiously themed statement, which was disproportionately severe. There was no reason for him to infer from Sonya's statement that she intended on throwing hot water on him. That is not part of the rebuke process. Hot water was never mentioned. Sean drew his weapon right as he finished warning Sonya, and he closed the distance. If he was afraid of Sonya, why would he move closer? The weapon in her possession was a pot of hot water. This is not considered to be a long-range weapon. Sean could have remained safe simply by staying where he was. Sonya initially crouched down and left the pot on the counter, so she was unarmed. As Sean closed the distance, Sonya did appear to grab the pot of water and throw the hot water toward Sean, but this may have been in response to Sean's high level of aggression. He was closing the distance, pointing his weapon, and yelling. Many people in Sonya's position would have been intimidated under these circumstances. Moving to the exculpatory factors, a pot of hot water is considered a weapon. Sonya's statement about rebuking Sean could take on a different meaning when holding a weapon. Just before Sean fired his service pistol, Sonya appeared to throw hot water from the pot toward him. That's pretty much it for exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe Sean was guilty of first-degree murder? No. Rather, I believe he was guilty of second-degree murder. In the state of Illinois, Second-degree murder is when a person kills another while acting under a sudden and intense passion due to being seriously provoked by a victim, or the person believed the killing would have been lawfully justified, but the belief was unreasonable. I do not believe that Sean was seriously provoked, but I do believe that he had an unreasonable belief that his actions were lawfully justified. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Sean Grayson did not have the temperament for being a police officer. He was impulsive, immature, petty, dominant, and aggressive. Since August 2020, he had worked at 5 other law enforcement agencies in Illinois before taking the job with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in May 2023. He was allowed to be a police officer despite having 2 convictions for driving under the influence. Even though these convictions did not technically prevent him from working as a police officer, any reasonable police administrator should have known not to hire him. Driving under the influence is not a minor crime or a victimless offense. Sonya called 911 because she was frightened. Her fear was probably related to mental illness. The presence of the deputies only made her symptoms worse. Sonya misinterpreted Sean backing up from the hot water as offensive, which led her to deliver the rebuke statement. Sean became incredibly aggressive. Maybe it was the religious component of Sonya's statement, or he was really worried about the hot water. Either way, his aggression was not warranted. Sonya apologized and crouched next to the sink, indicating that she was no longer a threat. But this wasn't good enough for Sean. He wanted to fully dominate and intimidate Sonya. Therefore, he closed the distance while pointing a gun and yelling. Sonya became frightened and threw the pot of water in self-defense. Sean killed her after developing the unreasonable belief that the circumstances warranted self-defense. Later, he wanted people to know that Sonya was mentally ill. Responding to an officer's question, Sean said, quote, "Yeah, I'm good. This blanking blank is crazy," unquote. Sean thought that Sonya's mental illness would shield him from prosecution, but he was incorrect. Now moving to my final thoughts. The racial component of this case has been highlighted by the media, but I'm not sure this killing was about race as much as mental illness. Sean Grayson did not know how to handle a mental health episode and only made the situation worse. Those are my thoughts on the case of Sonya Massey. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.